Well, is Stoicism bullshit? Let's talk about it today. Welcome back to day 26 of Psychology Every Day, and a really interesting topic that's, we've talked about in my class, mostly between other students and myself, is Stoicism. I've always been a huge fan of Stoicism, and it served me very well in a lot of, tough times. Uh, but together with more life experience and more life experience, more knowledge, and taking in other perspectives, something that is very difficult when you are a psychology major, because it's all about different perspectives, right? There's different schools of thoughts, and some believe in free will, some don't believe in free will, some put an emphasis on how other people affect you, some on your environment, some on your DNA, and stuff like that. And then of course you have the schools of different therapy methods. You have the behavioral therapy, which is huge in this day because of how scientifically backed it is, but it also doesn't take into it does not take into account that the old ways of psychodynamic, Freud, Jung, etc. Is very, very hard to measure, and there's a clash always between these two. Stoicism is a cognitive, if you were to talk about it in psychology terms, it would be something like cognitive psychology. It focuses on how you perceive things. It's not about what happens to you, it's about what you do with that, how you think about it. And it's in a lot of cases super duper helpful. But I want to start out with a quote that I like. I think it's from I heard it from Alex O'Connor first, and it is: every philosopher uh, says and believes that you can live with toothache except for the one that has it. And with so many things, it is so much easier said than done. And when it comes to Stoicism, it's so easy. Especially, you can even believe it yourself when you're feeling great, that you only have to make the best of every situation, and it tracks logically, right? Because what else are you going to do? You don't have another choice. But this, is easy to connect to some of the problems in psychology where a lot of people imagine that you're supposed to give advice. And the problem that has been, found over and over and over again is that advice don't work. It very rarely works. And if a client or a patient asks for advice, you can give it, but it's almost like that's not part of your job. Um, because a lot of advice are, as I said, both easier said than done, but also, it's not relevant for the person where they are at, because you, as a psychologist or a therapist or whatever, very rarely have been through exactly the same thing, and if you did, you would know how useless advice is. I want to give an example, actually. uh, well, two examples. Here are the 5 stages of grief: um, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Everyone goes through these, grief in your life. It can be about unwanted changes, severe ones, uh, the death of your parents or someone else that you love. Heartbreak is a form of grief, and it is very brutal. It might be one of the worst ones in some cases. And trying to be stoic about that when there is nothing to be gained almost. There is a famous YouTuber who talks about how it is unlimited energy to do other things. But I don't know, man. I don't think Stoicism is applicable in that case, because what it does is it sort of stops the process. And if you stick to the anger and feed your own anger and try to be productive and vengeful or whatever. I did this with an old heartbreak of mine where I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get revenge. I'm gonna be so successful and fuck you and I'm gonna show you. And took me years to get past that. And it's not supposed to take years. And uh, you know, uh, not to shit on anybody, but I don't think that relationship was worth years getting over either. So of course, the first one is denial, and if you get stuck in that, I think that the earlier you get stuck, the more you know the more problems you have, because if you get stuck in denial, that's basically a psychosis or delusions. uh, After a certain point, it is a delusion actually, but it is an okay delusion to have for a while before it hits you and lands. Of course, staying in bargaining, especially if it's heartbreak, chasing after this person for ever and ever and ever and ever, is not gonna make you able to move on. And the fourth stage is something that I've seen a lot of people on the internet get stuck in, and that is depression. And that is when, you know, uh, after bargaining, you've given up and you're depressed, and it's like life doesn't have any more colors, and nothing tastes good. I'm going to make several more videos about depression, but I'm talking about in the context of heartbreak here. And they get, they stay there forever. Some people, 15 years, 30 years, and um, it is very easy because the way to get out of that is, doing stuff. And if you don't feel like doing stuff and you don't do stuff, it's never gonna, you know, pass. So in that case, trying to be cognitive about it, trying to be stoic about it, and either trying to rationalize that it was a good thing that happened. It's better this way, especially people who don't ever try to find love again. They will keep their depression up because um, they were people who enjoyed love at one point, and I think all people do. Almost everyone, at least. It's very few people who don't actually want love validation or confirmation or whatever. And so you have to get through that as well. And you can't, none of these stages is good to like bury or, build around or try to cognitive your way around them. You have to go through them and you have to face them. And this tracks with so much of the old texts in psychology where it's like you have to face, the monster or the darkness or whatever. You have to look at it until it's not so bad anymore. And I wanted to talk about, this, sort of clash between different schools of thoughts in psychology as well. Because if you consider, Stoicism in this case to be the cognitive function of psychology, of course, like, the title says, it's not bullshit. It's one of the best and effective ways, but it is actually not perfect and almighty and always the best method. If you're 60 years old and your wife of 40 years dies, there's no way to rationalize this into a good thing, or that it's just not good at all, and you have to accept that. Carl Jung, in my opinion, the greatest psychologist of all time, wrote this in, I think it was 1920 something or 1940s, I don't know. And he talked about this, clash between different schools, and this clash is still going on to this day, which is insane because I don't know why. And he said that one of the problems with modern psychotherapy, which is funny because this was like 100 years ago, was that they don't do all 4 essential steps of psychotherapy. And these 4 essential parts in clinical therapy, I read this in Swedish, so it's a rough translation, but they are the confession, which is talking about what you feel and what has happened to you and how you think about it and what you have done is a very important part. That is why it's connected to the confession, because you have to actually find someone that you really trust and that won't tell anyone, and spill talk about what you have done, because nothing can remain buried if you actually want to fix the problem. The next part is explanation. And by the way, this confession part, some therapists do this to this day, and only do this, unfortunately. Like I said, like he said, there are 4 vital steps, and almost no therapist does all 4. Explanation is, how most people might see an psychologist, is that they explain why you feel this way. This and that happened in your childhood, and that's why you are this way now. That is, of course, the core of psychodynamic psychology, and it is also a very important part. But on its own, it's no good, right? The last 2, raising. Raising is the advice part, and that is very uncommon today. But together with, with all of the other things, it can be very effective to, give some sort of guideline of what this person should do in order to live a better and more healthy life. The problem is that you have to really get to know them on a very personal level, and you have to really think about what you're saying and not give too much advice. This comes from Adler, which is, it was all about people should be raised. He was a child psychologist as well, to become a part of society and good citizens and social beings, and raising people were very important to him, and he claimed that a lot of people's problems are because they weren't raised properly, and that you can raise people in an adult age if you're given the authority. And of course, as a psychologist or a doctor, or you are trusted to be able to tell people what to do. The last part is transformation, and this is basically changing your behaviors and your thought patterns, and becoming someone where your external behaviors creates a better life and healthier habits. And this is by far the most common one in medical care these days, and that is because this is very easy to study, to track, and It can be done in a short time, and you can see the results very clearly. And I'm not going to talk about ecological fallacy today and whatever, but since medical care is, you can't screw up medical care because then people die, right? So it has to be evidence based, and it's so much easier to get evidence based for that last part because of how science in this field works. I'm not going to go into that today, but we can talk about ecological fallacy some other day. And so the conclusion is that no, Stoicism is not bullshit, but it is not always the most practical, pragmatic, or effective method for everything. I really like that quote. Every philosopher says and believes that you can live with a toothache except for the one who has it. Then you realize what Jordan Peterson said about pain is the most real thing there is. There's nothing, that is more intense and, takes up your entire world than huge amounts of pain. And you can't rationalize that away. There's no way. Like, try to say someone who just got run over has two broken legs, and you just gotta stop worrying about it, make the best of it. Doesn't work like that. It's a beautiful Monday. I'm finally going to school for a lecture. It's 2 hours, which is, it's not the most fun to drive an hour, 15 minutes for a 2-hour lecture, and then drive home 1 hour, 15 minutes for a 2-hour lecture. But gotta do what you gotta do. Gotta make the best of it, right? Thank you so much to everyone that has subscribed, liked, and commented. The channel keeps growing, bit by bit, like three subscribers a day or something like that, and makes me so happy. I've got a lot of things to talk about still, and I want to keep making videos. And when I run out of new things to say, I'll just repeat the old stuff and try to make it better and package it over and over again. And I hope you will stay with me. And if you did watch it all the way through here, let me know by writing, I don't know, clock in the comments. That would help me a lot to, learn. I'm trying to learn to be a better YouTuber, and I'm trying to see, should I make 3-minute videos, 20-minute videos? Should I do thumbnails? And, I'm trying to, improve. So please help me out with that. Comment clock in the section. And I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.